Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. For their details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.org.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics.
Yes, and socially conscious we always are.
Yeah, we're very socially conscious.
He's not outrageous.
No.
Anyway, I just saw a comedy called, if I can...
Tony Erdmann.
Called Tony Erdmann.
A German film.
If you can believe that.
Isn't it nominated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I thought we should just...
Germans.
Yeah.
Allah, so funny.
Listen.
You know, the Germans are hilarious.
Yeah, right.
Aren't they?
Hey, listen, if you go on...
Has a comedy ever even come out of Germany?
Yes, it has. Actually, there are pages of German comedies, but of course they're in German.
Right. Never has a language
No.
so effectively precluded laughter.
Anyway, we're looking at socially conscious comedies. And I have two favorites.
Okay.
Okay? And
I can imagine one.
all right.
I mean, probably the greatest socially conscious comedy of all time. Yeah, but go ahead, because I want to see if this matches up.
My first is The Graduate.
Okay. That's not what I was going to say, but
All right.
okay.
All right.
I was going to say Dr. Strangelove.
Yes, and Dr. Strangelove is...
You know, because
Yeah.
all of humanity hangs in the balance
It does, right.
on that one.
And if you're talking about provocation for war or not, it's a good film.
The thing with The Graduate, which I know, you know, it has that theme woven through it about, you know, the generation gaps and communication.
And Southern California lifestyle.
Yeah, Southern California lifestyle. But
Right.
it plays out. You can watch that movie, still be wildly entertained by it, and never have that cross your mind once.
No,
You know?
yeah. And I guess that's why I love it.
Yeah.
Because it works on those levels, but at the same time, for me, the consciousness about society in Southern California and how the protagonist, played by Dustin Hoffman, is affected by that, and then the business of the proper marriage, and of sexuality,
Yeah.
and of the cougar concept.
Yeah, is that a social problem we need to be aware of?
I think some people might consider that.
I don't know. I think there are other more pressing issues.
All right, I got an oddball one for you.
Yeah.
Harold and Maude.
Now, I saw that on your list. Funny, we just watched it. Just watched it the other day. Again.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I love that movie.
Yes.
And what is the problem there?
I think it's the generational gap. I think it's the facing the boundaries of sexuality, to whereby he's 19, she's 79. They fall in love, and that I mean, at that time that was outrageous. And
But here's the interesting thing about that movie, just having watched it.
yes,
Because that's how I remembered it too. You know, it's about this young man that falls in love with an old woman,
Right.
and they have sex, and, you know, like you said, facing the boundaries.
Right.
And then when you look at it again, the actual sex part, the intimation of the act,
right.
occurs just at the end. So it builds, really, essentially what they have is this it's a road movie, not a road movie, it's a buddy movie.
Sure,
you know?
it is, right.
They're friends up until, like, when he really starts to emotionally attach to her. And then at the end there's this gesture towards sexuality. But, you know, the movie thematically is about you know, a depressed kid. He can't connect. He wants to die. He hooks up with this lady who he thinks wants to live. Turns out
she does not want to live. And the eccentricity of their life is really
both their lives.
Both their lives.
Interesting.
And of course they met at funerals. So there's something really dark.
You know what? I think you're right. I think actually it is a socially conscious comedy. And I think it is sort of trying to get us to pay attention to the people we might otherwise dismiss.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
All right.
What else you got on there?
Oh, man, I got a lot of them. Well, I've got one I don't think you know. The King of Hearts.
Oh, it's an older movie. Right?
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful French movie about the inmates of an insane asylum taking over the town.
Okay.
It's a World War One, I think,
Okay.
relative, and what it does is to show really the who's crazier,
Yeah.
the people outside making war or the inmates of the asylum
Yeah.
who are running this town while everybody else has abandoned it. So I love it. I love it for that comment upon war and upon the insanity of life, and the obvious irony
Yeah.
of who's running the place.
It's interesting. Jumping off from that, would you put One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in that category? Would you say that's socially conscious?
That's a great comment. Yeah, that's a good companion piece to this. Yeah.
Do you think of it as a comedy?
Oh, I think there are comedic parts to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
I think there are parts, but overall, I don't think we would have said that's a comedy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's interesting, but in that moment, I did, because there are funny bits to it. You have on there Borat, which I think is probably, I think it starts out as a socially conscious comedy.
That's right. It does. I mean, I can't even tell you. There's so many images I have of Borat. But one thing I do know, it's outrageous.
It is outrageous. Now, that in and of itself is not valuable, right? I mean, in a socially conscious
No.
framework. But I think you can say that through the lens of this character,
Yes.
he really sort of exposes a lot of idiocy in the United States.
Yes, he does.
Across a vast swath, you know?
And, you know, I think that he helped to loosen up the bonds of comedy itself by just taking any topic and going with it. And, you know, if you consider crazed leaders who might have stream of consciousness leadership,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, then you might think of how Borat would have looked at our current our current situation. Oh, look, I've got for those who are looking at our video,
Yeah.
for that listener, I want to point out here that I do have neighbors too.
Yeah.
and I know that one wouldn't have thought this is a socially conscious movie.
Are you doing a public service announcement by telling us what?
I think the film, which talks about this nice suburban couple having a sorority move in next door, what it really comes down to is equality.
Mm-hmm.
That this sorority was started because sororities were not allowed to have parties the way fraternities were.
Okay.
And so they are just kind of exercising their right of equality. And throw into that, when you have Zac Efron with his finely sculpted stomach, and then you have several of the beauties from the sorority, you kind of have an equality in that too.
Yeah.
Because he's got as much time on his stomach and then as you do with the women in bikinis.
Yeah.
So I know I'm stretching a bit here.
Yeah, a
on
little
socially conscious.
A little.
I guess it is a silly thing.
All right. At the top of your list there, you have a movie, Don John.
Yes.
With Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
I believe it's his directorial debut.
Okay, thank you.
And as far as I can recall, the social issue in question there is porn.
Correct.
Addiction to porn.
Right.
Wow, you have really covered your bases.
But
we've got porn, nuclear war, insanity.
Right. Sex between the ages.
Wow. Yeah,
I know.
we are.
I don't know if on my list I have anything else that I think MASH, for instance, takes the serious nature of war and tries to approach it with some levity.
Yeah.
And Anchorman was for your business.
Right.
For which you can,
What?
well, that old TV thing.
I mean, surely broadcast news has been addressed in a more socially conscious form than Anchorman. Probably network, maybe?
Yeah, but we're talking comedies here.
That's, I guess, isn't it? All right.
All right.
You got me on that one.
No,
Broadcast
okay.
news?
Right. Okay, any others? How about Yes Man, which is kind of a lightweight comedy, socially conscious.
Isn't that where Jim Carrey promises to say yes to
correct.
everything?
Yes, correct. Where he attempts to be right about everything and to agree with everything, and that doesn't work out any better than it works out.
But would that be a spoof of this this contemporary malady that we have, where like this self-help addiction?
Right
Is
on.
that what you're getting
Right.
at?
Everybody's pleasing everybody. Everybody's
Right.
got to feel good.
You got to validate
Right.
everything.
Right. And then one of my great criticisms of society is our over-reliance on television and Clickman with Adam Sandler.
Oh, click.
Yeah, right. Click. Right. Click with
Yeah.
Adam Sandler. Seems to hit that one straight on.
Yeah.
And I don't have to dig too hard for that one. And then Shallow Hal. So I'm
Yeah,
trying.
obesity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Body image,
Yes. And how about Thank You for Smoking?
smoking.
You have.
Wow. We've got it all.
We've got it all. But after all, this is cinema classics.
Right.
And there's no topic we can't discuss here
That is true.
or lacerate.